My incredible divine Crystar family, here is our Crystal River Spiral for this week. I want to do our weekly report, and I also wanted to share a little bit of this magnificent, beautiful place that we are currently. I'm hoping that it will pop up. I will tell you it's a little bit hard to see the computer with all of the sun glare, but I am grateful to see the sun because the last few days we've been in a beautiful place at the end or the edge of the world, as I like to call it, in Bay in the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, which was absolutely incredible and beautiful. But it was very misty, very cold, very rainy, and very hard to see a lot there. So we are very grateful to be in the sunshine today. This is kind of a neat location because here in this very location, even though we are in Washington State, we are actually closer as far as cellular service and all of that to Canada. So it's kind of fun seeing uh, British Columbia over there and the beautiful islands. I believe Victoria is over there. So, just a little bit of fun I wanted to share with you guys today for our report. I'm going to find a place for me to sit so I can share some of the screen and see it in the best way I can. Because this next week, even though it's not going to have a lot of energy moving as far as planetary changes, there is going to be some powerful things for us to look at and talk about. All right, I'm in a little bit of a calmer place where I can look at some of the papers with you and share the screen on the website. So this week we're looking at the energy for the end of July. This is going to be July 27 until August 2nd. Now, this is going to be really special as far as this next week goes because I know a lot of you get really inspired by hearing about the 8-8 Lions Gate. So within this, as we're starting to move into August, obviously this is going to be something that's going to be happening within close to the first week. So looking at this for next week, one of the things to recognize is that the window of energy for the 8-8 Lionsgate isn't exactly on the 8-8. It's actually a window of time within there. So this is actually already starting to tap us into this vibrational energy of tapping into the Leonine energy and the ways that we can begin to embrace this. So let's go ahead and start with some of our solar energy, and we're going to talk more about that as we move into our next week's report. So within this, as we're starting out for this week, one of the key things is that we are still within the gate 31 within the sun. And this is really potent and powerful right now. One of the key things for us to recognize is Sun is in opposition to Pluto, which means our Earth is in conjunction to Pluto. This is in the gate 41. So 41 is our Earth. It is also the opposition to the sun, and it's also where Pluto is sitting right now. This is kind of a big deal because right now Pluto's been holding the retrograde energy for us, which has been helping us to really go inward about how are we resetting our stepping stones. The gate 41 is really our new future we're stepping into. We've talked about it quite a bit in some of our last reports, so I'm not going to go too much into it because we have a new retrograde starting up this next week. We are starting into what I like to call the retrograde season of the year. And what the retrograde season is that it just starts to little by little, another one adds, another one adds, another one adds. So right now we have Pluto that's been holding retrograde in the gate 41, which is now going to be holding an energy for Sunday, Monday of an opposition to the sun. This is actually really powerful for us because Pluto always inspires us. Dig deep into yourself. What is it that you've buried away, hidden away, or that you're still afraid to let shine out into the world? What are you afraid of letting out of those deep, dark closets within that it's time for you to just fully and completely open them up so that nothing in the shadows has any power over you? Embrace the things that feel as though they hold you back, especially when it comes to things like human design. One of the key things within human design is the idea of the shadow. So, and that's kind of coupling it in with the gene keys, of course. So, the idea of the shadow or the idea of our not self perspective. So, what this says is that every single gate or gene key has a potential to either be lived at the vibration of in kind of a shadow aspect or our not self aspect. But when we start to embrace it at its highest perspective, we start to move into what is the gift or into a neutral energy within it, where it doesn't have a polarity either way. Gene Keys takes it into the level of saying that when we go into a transcendence of it, the third stage is the city, becoming it like a miraculous gift. And within the human design, it's us stepping beyond the idea of self into the eternal self of being that is beyond matter, beyond form. So as we look at this vibration, let's play with some of the other retrogrades that are happening. We've got Saturn and Neptune that are still holding that conjunction energy with each other, that is also moving within. Let me just move this up so you can see some of this. It's moving within the retrograde energy as well. These are pretty recent, but we've already been kind of deep within it for the last almost month of energy. So it's not something new. Mercury was what really kicked us into gear the last time, where we started to feel the Mercury retrograde coming into play. Now, for this week, what do we get? We get Chiron coming in, and now it's adding to all those retrograde energies within our chart. It's going to start later on this week, and it'll be in the gate 3, a gate of mutation. This is actually really important because we know that Pluto in its retrograde is moving from 41 back into 60. And within the human design rave, if you look at your human design chart, the gate 60 as a channel wants to connect to the gate 3, which is where Chiron's going to be sitting. We love the way that we can just kind of play with all of this. How is it playing out in our life? How is it playing out for us? The whole idea of the gate 60 and the gate 3 connecting to each other is about mutation. It's about how do we initiate change, but how do we initiate change that doesn't rip us apart? How do we initiate change that actually fortifies our genetics, makes us stronger, makes us more resilient? How do we expand within so that we are very healthy? And what it means is that we keep the base code structures of ourselves, and that we let go of that which is weak or not serving anymore, and that the genetic mutations are always meant to take place within creation. It's evolution. And so as we look at this, if we were to think of this of the idea of Pluto and Chiron playing this out, how do you interpret that? What would you want to do with the idea of, say, Pluto inviting you to go deep into the places that you've maybe kept hidden or that you are too afraid to open up or you don't want the rest of the world to know about you? And then Chiron coming in and saying, hey, as this energy of a centaur, oh, the idea we always think of Chiron as the wounded healer, but all centaurs are healers. They're healing energies. They're like elixirs. They're going to be things that really bring some sort of transformation to whatever has felt like a trauma, a wound, or something that has limited us in the past. This is really important for us to kind of keep tying in, is to remember the centaur and the asteroids and the asteroid belt. They're not just these asteroids. They really do hold the fragmented memories of the explosion of Maldek. And when we remember that, then we remember that a lot of the wounded healing that we're doing is healing those trauma lines of the fragmentations, and the really the restoration of entire genetic or family lines or race lines that once lived on a complete other planetary system, but all at one point in time came from the second harmonic universe or the Tara timeline. So within that, let's keep playing within this, because look at that. All the retrogrades that are coming into play is just beautiful. Now, one of the things I really wanted to highlight for you guys is, because this is kind of massive, is we've got, these are our gates for our lunar gates this next week cycle. And look at all the brown in here. That's the splenic center. Literally within the first couple of days of the moon moving through, it's going to be moving through basically starting in the gate 64. But as it moves through, it's going to very quickly just go boom, 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 and hit every single splenic center gate. I just went, oh my gosh, this is going to be a wild one. If there was anything that was going to create a little bit of an intense energy this week, it's going to be the lunar energy moving through. Now, through our last new moon, for those in the Flame Holders group, we had the invitation come through from the guardians of how do we want to work with this next 29-day cycle? And the concept or the idea that we could look at ourselves and say, hey, I recognize that I'm not the same person that I was 29 days ago at the last new moon. So projecting forward into the future 29-day and that next full moon, who do we want to see ourselves as sitting there? And this I'm going to come back to again for this video today because I feel like this is really important for us. There's a few resources I've added for the flame holders on this particular resource here that we're looking at in this video that is going to give you an invitation to check out some of these videos and some of these thoughts so that you can maybe start to play with the remembrance again that all is mind, all is consciousness. Everything we're doing in creation, in this existence, even though we're feeling it in a physical body, is that we are remembering that we are consciousness. And that consciousness in an observational state begins to actually solidify and create the realities that it is observing. And so when we remember that what we are truly here to kind of re-embed into the Christic path of virtues is our consciousness. It's not so much this idea again of getting stuck on what is my life purpose. Your life purpose, in a very simplistic way, is to clean up your consciousness crystals so that every thought that moves through your mental plane has virtues at its core. And that within that will follow the cleaning up of your emotional body, that they all kind of tie in together. But really, when you start to make that declaration within yourself that you will be the observer of every thought, feeling, emotion, and energy that moves through, that, and that you will capture anything in there that is inverting, or I'm going to use this term, folding in upon itself, that you will immediately catch it and speak it into a new creation so that it flowers into an eternal form again. Now, the splenic center is where the primal fears of humanity exist, the stuff that sometimes doesn't even make sense. It's like, I'm so afraid that somebody's going to find out about what I did when I was a kid, or fear of the past catching up to us, fear of the future, fear that there's no purpose in life, fear that we're inadequate or not good enough or will never be enough, fear that we won't be able to follow through with our promises or the desires that we want to manifest, that we won't be enough to make it happen, fear that creation is just constantly crumbling and will fall apart. There's, oh my goodness, you guys, we could go on and on about the splenic center because it's massive. It is literally a center that is eventually going to fall away. Through the yuga cycles and the evolutionary cycle, it will fall away. And that means that we're going to start to move more into an emotional solar plexus race line of beings, beings that start to trust our waves, our feelings, starting to recreate the scalar waves of consciousness that we're embedding into creation. But right now, we are riddled with splenic center stuff that is basically the genetics in our DNA that comes from our ancestors that say, I'm so scared. And all of those scared feelings and fears are truly illusions. And most of the times we're afraid of what? Being rejected, being not loved, being judged by others, being ostracized, being not part of the community. Because in the tribal times, that equaled death. If you didn't have a tribe, it was almost impossible to survive alone. So we can see how these just don't serve us anymore, because as we start to come into a centered state, we will remember that we have the ability to be our own divine, eternal, sovereign self again. So I wanted to touch on that. Just know that this week again is really, really important in the sense that Chiron is leading into that retrograde. We have all of these vibrations of retrogrades again: Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, now Chiron. Within that, we're starting within the gate 31, and then it's going to move into the gate 33. Now, 33 is going to happen around Wednesday. But this is going to be kind of the last couple days of July. So 33 is pretty amazing in the sense that it does have the vibration of an energy with the throat chakra, the storyteller energy. And as we get to work within this, I'm just going to scroll on down so that we can kind of move into this and see where this is happening. You can see that we have really this beautiful energy. Again, as you see within here, Sun, Mercury are going to have a conjunction a little bit later. So Sun's going to start to move in. But within here, this is just going to be all the energy in the chart. Probably could talk for hours on all the amazing stuff on here, but let's just really focus on 33. The shadow of it is forgetting. There's almost an energy of deafness to the gate 33 that can happen too. Now, within this, it says that in our memory crystals that many times there's so much that is happening that if we learn how to embrace what matters that we want to pull forward into the future, that's what we tell our stories about, like the bards, like the musical players that would travel from town to town that would tell the stories of the ancestors, the myths, all of those are important because our memories of where we come from, who we are, and what we're connected to is everything. If we lose the sequence of our memories of where we've come from, we've cut ourselves off from God's source in a way because we have forgotten about our inheritance or who we are. This is really interesting because I watch on a shadow level sometimes a lot of individuals who find themselves to be the last family member in their genetic family line, sometimes starting to feel a disconnect or like they're not belonging, even if they didn't feel that close to the family line, that there is something into that strand of DNA of connection to that storyline. And that it's important for us to remember that we're not here to connect into family tree storylines because most of those are just going to tap into just dramas or stories or things that are bound to the earth plane. We're here to connect to our universal family. Remember our universal stories. Remember the Christic stories that move beyond this outer domain world so that we can move beyond the Maya. The energy of this is called the final revelation within the Gene Keys. And its gift is mindfulness, being present, being mindful. And that within it, the city is revelation. That it says, thus the ancients say, you are caught in a wheel or a net of your own making, paradoxically unable to remember who you truly are because of the memories you keep creating. Now, it's interesting because within this one, this gate 33 is all about within the Vedas, they call it sanskaras. And sanskaras are the mental impressions or recollections that you bring in from prior imprints or lifetimes. We could almost think of this as karma, but sanskara is a little bit different than karma in the sense that it's kind of like the mental construct you bring in, who you think you are, how you have thought in past lifetimes. And what's really neat right now about Saturn and Neptune being in retrograde, Saturn is all about the container of your mind and how you hold your thoughts about what reality is or what you're creating or who you are. So, right now is a really powerful time that says in retrograde, what if you could dissolve all of that? If you could remember again that this physical reality is what it is because of how you are viewing or perceiving it. And that it doesn't matter if there's 8 billion people on this planet and other individuals are perceiving the reality from their own way. You still are a divine Christic being that has the ability to recognize what you are creating in this reality and start to know it and be it so intensely that you start to witness it as a validation of what you are dreaming in this lifetime. It says there is no situation on earth that cannot be used as a means to raise your frequency and open your heart to your own inner divinity. This is this is really beautiful. The gate 33 100% is all about the Maya. So for those of you that are doing the womb chakra mantras, purification of the womb chakra, cleansing the kamas, the desires, the Mayas. Remembering the Maya always wants to hook you in because it's the algorithm of the game. But when we clear ourselves from its hold over us, we can be within it. Yet it will not have a hold over us because we recognize that we are beyond those memory crystals that have bound us to other incarnations or beliefs. So, within that, I'm going to kind of end with that for this particular week. That the invitation again for this week is to really remember that your thoughts, how you think, primarily about yourself and your beliefs about how you feel you can manifest, or maybe how you still feel you can't manifest, is the most important thing to pay attention to, because everything in creation is all consciousness. And so, even if it comes down to galactic wars, the different agendas that are happening on the earth, whether you look at it through politics, through exopolitics like space programs, extraterrestrial races, interdimensionals, things that happen in the shadows or in your dream time, or abductions that take place, and all of these things, it doesn't matter in which way you look at it. Please remember that everything in this reality is fighting for your consciousness and to burrow into your belief systems, and that anything anti-Christic is folding in on itself or inverting and cutting itself off or turning away from God's source. Whereas everything Christic is constantly, eternally flowering as a Trinity flame, almost like the eternal lotus petals, back to the core source of all that is. It's as simple as that. The guardians say it all the time. If they were in our physical body, they would only pay attention or connect with that which is Christic, and not even play around or even entertain anything that's anti-Christic. And so, as we start to realize everything is a battle for your consciousness right now, that even if you could go like, hey, I've been abducted, or hey, my body is going through these issues, or hey, I've had these things happen to me and these feel real to me. Sure, in this first harmonic universe, yes. Yet at the same time, you have the sovereign right to keep commanding. You are sovereign, and your consciousness has the ability to free itself beyond all matter binding within this reality. And as we start to expand into that, that is where we start to untangle and to seal and dissolve and close all those doorways that even allow them into our space to do those things. And I do say, from my own experience, it is possible to shut the door on those abductions, those infiltrations, those negative thoughts, those experiences, and even the things that go on within the physical body, because we can become the mental um, creators within this reality, beginning to shift it. It isn't something that normally happens after one clearing statement that says, "Hey, I did the clearing. How come I don't feel better?" it takes it takes consistency. I do want to just say that it takes consistency. So, with so much love, my divine Crystar family, know this is our first week heading in since our new moon. So this is the initial states from our new moon into what do you want to be in the next 29-day cycle. This is the time to really spend the time manifesting. Who are you? Who do you choose to be? What are the thoughts that are happening within your mind? What memory crystals are you holding? And in what way do you want to change the story that you have been holding? So, with so much love, I love you guys so much, and I will see you at our next week's report.